The sea snail quilt is made with a block, a sashing, and a cornerstone. The block is a variation of the Snails Trail block, and the sashing and cornerstone are the same as those for the storm at sea setting. There's one variation we're going to do with the Snails Trail block. Traditionally, the Snails Trail block has a 4-patch here in the center, but we're going to replace that 4-patch with just light color fabric. This is what it looks like when you replace the 4-patch with just a white fabric or a light fabric. And it makes these trails, they separate here in the center, and it looks more like a claw. To me, this makes it look just a little more whimsical. This is a diamond sashing, and this is a square and a square for the cornerstones. And these are the only 3 blocks we're going to make, or the only 3 units we're going to make. In the pattern, and as we talk about this quilt, this block was made by the AccuQuilt. It's the Snails Trail block on board, and it finishes at 8 inches. And so we'll have to substitute out this square in the center. This one is paper pieced, and the foundations for the block, the sashing, and the cornerstones are in the pattern that you can download. This block finishes at 7 1/4 inches. The reason it finishes that size is this fits on a letter size paper. And here's what the template looks like, and it's numbered. You start in the center. Now, we're not going to do paper piecing in this video because there's plenty of videos on paper piecing. And also on paper piecing, here's the diamond and the diamond sashing, and here is the square and a square. All these foundation papers will be in your pattern download. For the AccuQuilt, here's the block on board, and you can't really see some of the divisions, but these are 2 large triangles and smaller and smaller and smaller, and these are the 2 center squares for the 4-patch, and it will cut these automatically as you cut everything else. So I just pieced them together and had a little something I can put in my orphan block scrap quilt later. So we'll go over a little bit of that later on. This is page 1 of the pattern that you can download. And here are the 2 different versions of the quilts I'm going to talk about today. This is the AccuQuilt version. And so these blocks and the sashing are going to be a little bit larger than the paper piecing version. This one finishes at 52 inches by 76 inches. And this one finishes 66 by 87. So there's quite a bit more piecing in the paper pieced quilt because it is bigger and it does have more pieces. They're just different sizes. And down here, here's the paper piecing. So it tells you how many pieces you need. Like for the Snails Trail block, you'll need to make 48 copies. And then it tells you the other copies you'll need to make. You saw the Snails Trail block on board for this, and you'll also need a 2.5 inch cut die, whichever one you have, to cut that center square. Additionally, for the AccuQuilt cutting, you'll need die number 5, which will be the corner triangles for the square and a square. Now this square and a square, in addition to being a little bit bigger, it only has 1 square. The paper pieced version has a light center and a small square, or a bigger square, and then the outside square. So that's what's different about these 2 as well. So this is die number 5 from the 8 inch mix and match. And this is die number 6 from the 8 inch mix and match, and it's this square on point. Now to make the sashing, this sashing is different than the paper pieced version as well because it's actually 2 units, these triangle and a square unit, which is that, put together. So you can either match these like I did here, or you can do two separate fabrics in the middle, and you can do separate fabrics for the light as well. And we're going to talk about fabrics in just a minute. So these are the main differences between the Snails Trail, the AccuQuilt version, and the paper pieced version. So these pieces, you'll need the companion, the 8-inch companion angles cube, and for the triangle, it's die number 13, and for these side triangles, you'll need die number 14. Something important about this die and this piece here on the paper piecing, and the same piece on the AccuQuilt version, you'll need, as you can see on the AccuQuilt, it has these two long rectangle triangles. And if you put a fabric on here right side up, you'll get two pieces like this. So you'll need to have another fabric right side down to get the opposite pieces. The same thing with these. The instructions tell you how big to cut these rectangles. You'll have to put two together, either right sides or wrong sides together, and then cut your diagonal. So you'll have a rectangle, a rectangle like this, and then you'll be cutting on the diagonal to get these pieces. Now that's all in the instructions, but I just wanted to remind you of it here. Now I want to talk about fabric next. Let me finish showing you this. This page 2 of the instructions tells you how much fabric you need for each different version. Then we'll get to this other one later. Let's talk about fabric. You need a very definite lights and very definite darks, and I'm going to show you, these are blocks that work. There's a little, I found that the tone on tones, the whites and the very light tans or natural colors work best for the background. And try to get your darks all dark. I mean, these aren't as dark as this, but it works. And also the tips you choose should be definitely dark, and especially these first two triangles you put on. So this block works. This block works. And this one even has a print on it, a light print. It's a light green print, but it's mostly in the background is a light color. And so those work good as well. Same thing here. This is the same fabric. So these blocks work. Here are some blocks that did not work. And this is why I always encourage you to make a test block and test out your fabrics and how you piece your block before you go and cut everything, because I know I've gone through and just cut a whole entire quilt, and then I either don't like how it sews or the fabrics are just all wrong. This is what made me decide to make the Snails Trail block. I was playing with this one and I liked how it looked. It was actually for a different quilt. And I liked how it looked, so I kept it. These colors work, except the center is not light. It's not a light fabric. And even though I do like that, but I like the light better. So these two trails are connected because the white is not in the center. Next, I thought I would have use all mostly solids, and I thought I would put black in the center square instead of a light color, and this just didn't work out. These are they're not dark enough, the darks are not dark enough, and the lights are okay, but it's just kind of more boring, so that did not work. Here's one that didn't work, and it doesn't work because these are not dark, and this is a light side, and this one should be dark. This green here is just not dark enough. So be careful of that. And this one is about the same thing. This is better than this one, but this one didn't make it either. And then this one, you can't really tell. It's just all these yellows and these background fabrics here just don't go. So you can look at it and see if you like it or not to decide. And you might notice that all of these blocks, I decided at the beginning, and I changed my mind, but then it was too late, that I would have each of the trails be the same color or the same fabric. So I started with the yellow, then I went with the blue, or the green, I'm sorry, and then this blue, and then the purple. And I did the same thing with the light fabrics. I ended up doing this for the whole entire quilt, but because I figured once I started doing that, I should have finished doing that. So I didn't change in the middle. But if I were to do it over again, I would just totally scrap up everything. I would put all the lights and just mix them up completely in the background and do the same thing with the darks. Just mix them up completely. I think it would look really, really nice. But all of these blocks were rejects, and so they'll go in the orphan block scrap quilt. I did the same thing with the sashing. And let me show you how I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Once I pieced some of these blocks, I wanted to look and see how they would go next to each other. And I decided I would just piece bigger blocks, piece these together. And so then I laid out the blocks with the dark facing toward the inside. And this goes here, and this goes here. This is a little bit too big to fit everything, but you can see what's going on here. To make it easier on myself, I thought, okay, I'm going to match up 4 blocks and make this one big block. If you're doing the paper pieced version, you will have 12 of these. And this is a better picture here of what's going on. This area here is where this big block down here came out of. So these are 6 of those blocks. It's actually 4 blocks pieced together with these sashings in between them. And then when you put these big blocks together, there's going to be sashing in between them as well. You can see the close-up of this. These sashings, I decided to color the same color. And these two. So I had sets of 4 for the inside, and then I had sets of 3 that were sort of like the setting triangles, and then I had sets of 2 which go in the corners. But it was more trouble than it's worth, because I really think it would have been nicer just for everything to be totally scrappy. This is your ultimate goal, is to get these bigger blocks and then piece them together with sashing. So a different sashing would, say, go on this side. And you'll see as we get into that portion too. One other tip I wanted to show you about piecing. Now this works for either the paper piecing or the AccuQuilt. And you're going to put your pieces when you have your pieces cut. The AccuQuilt will cut triangles for you. When you're going to be cutting for paper piecing, you're going to cut squares, and you'll cut those in half on the diagonal. So either way, you're going to end up with triangles. And these all match, but you can just scrap it up if you want, or put however order you want them in. You take the largest 2 triangles and put them at the bottom, the dark triangles, the largest 2 dark triangles. Then the largest light triangles go on top. Then the next dark, the next light, dark, light, dark, light. Now for the AccuQuilt, you'll have 4 sets of these. For paper piecing, you'll have 5. And when I mean sets, I mean different size triangles. And then on top, you put the center square. So when you go and piece it, you just come and you just piece from the top. You always take the next piece and piece it on the top. And you're going to always piece opposite each other. So the first ones will be light, and you'll piece them opposite from each other. Then the next ones will be dark, So you'll piece those opposite each other. Same thing with the light. You're going to go start your trail going in one direction or the other. So this trail is going to go clockwise. And then we'll just keep adding these and sewing them on across from each other. And this, so then we're going to go across here. Then this will go next to that. And then across. The same thing here. And then this last piece is always going to be dark. So that's how you'll piece both of them. You always piece across from each other. The numbered ones here on the paper piecing, number 1 is always the center square, which is always light. And then the 2 small lights will be pieced opposite each other. Then the 2 small darks opposite that. And that's how you piece both of them. Now I'm going to show you a series of pictures and some videos just so you can get an idea of how this is put together. This is the quilt on my design wall, and you can see how this blue sashing matches each other. Matches the sashing and the cornerstone as well. And then the other one on the side, there's 3 pieces of sashing and they match as also. So this is what I'm talking about with the sashing matching colors. So this one on the side is a set of 3, and this purple one here, set of 4. And the ones that did not match, like this blue on the top and blue on the bottom, get closer. That one right there in the middle, it has a black cornerstone between the 2 because all 4 of those sashings that meet there at that cornerstone are different colors. But again, I would say just go scrap everything up. So let's go over here and you can see where I took out that piece. So this is the empty space where that 4 block and 4 part sashing came out of that you saw on the video. So that's how you put it together. And good luck with your quilt.